series, they at least came out and won one at the end of this.
But let's forget about that series for the time being. PSG now take on a revitalized Origin. Going to be interesting to see how their new roster does. A couple of subs in there. We are already into picks and bans. Kasten and Gragas taken away by PSG. And Zach and Elise removed by Origin.
This has been something that we've seen quite frequently, by the way, this ban strategy in the EU LCS. We've seen a lot of jungle focus, and then you first pick the only remaining top-tier jungler, you know, like a Lee Sin, for instance. That might be a first pick for PSG. You could first pick the Lee Sin, forcing Origin onto something a little bit more second-tier, like we've seen a little Warwick come out, sorry. My Englishness will always pronounce Warwick, but Warwick come out in the EU LCS.
Well, Xayah is going to be the first lock-in for PSG. So we have Nardus taking that down the bottom lane. I want to quickly touch on the bans really fast because they did zip on through. Scarlet, or SRH as he was known in CSQ, he's been targeted quite heavily here with his Kasten and Vladimir taken away. Two massive picks that he did show amazing proficiency on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think SRH showed that he has one of the few remaining players that can really make Vladimir work for him, and he's been doing so through that CSQ that's going to go away. Interesting that you see Xayah get picked up as a first lock here for Paris Saint-Germain. There's a lot of marksmen still left on the table for Origin, but it does force them to do what they've done here and pick the Rakan.
Yeah, getting that Rakan away from the PSG bot lane in Nardius and Noxiac makes a lot of sense. Zani gets his Ivern, something we saw him play a lot at CSQ. Just quickly, before we talk about these picks too much, I want to run down some of the roster changes that have been made here.
Sure.
Paris Saint-Germain have brought in Nardius and Noxiac, and yeah, that's it. That's all they've done. They've switched out their bot lane. They lost Brussels, of course, and they to NIP, and Pilot was their AD carry. He went back over to Korea. I believe China, yes, China.
DS Gaming.
Yes, and Origin have brought in Neon and Illusionist. This is not the roster they'll be playing with for this split, just because they've acquired the War roster, and War need to have 3 of their starting members from CSQ in their original roster for week 1. So Neon and Illusionist have come up from the Spanish Origin team to play for them today.
So we talked a little bit about those sub situations at the start of the stream. This is one of them, like you said. Obviously, next week, the entire War roster that we saw in the Challenger Series qualification will move over to Origin and play for them in this Challenger Series split. Big eyes on Dan. He was a standout performer for that Wind and Rain roster over in the Challenger Series qualification. Let's see if he can do the same thing here.
Well, speaking of Dan, I mean, we haven't actually seen a Jax ban come through for PSG, so I'm kind of curious to see if they do want to lock that one in. Like you said, stand-up performer on those split push carries. And one thing I want to point out as well, Zani, 12% kill share in the jungle role. Not a high kill share at all, very supportive jungler, and really did play to their strengths in the CSQ.
Something that the Wind and Rain roster always did in the CSQ is they would basically 100% of the time on red side pick Dan's carry in the top lane last because of how important he was to their winning strategy. It has been that over the time. You can see PSG then now focusing top lane bans because they realize how important it is for Dan to get, or how important it is to deny those kind of carries from Dan.
I agree with you. I think White Knight in the end of last split actually showed us how good he is in the top lane, so I wouldn't be too concerned if I was Paris Saint-Germain about dealing with Dan.
I think if you were going to place someone up against Dan, White Knight is a fantastic contender in that top lane. We've seen how incredible he was in terms of mechanically and laning phase as well for PSG in the last split.
I mean, he's currently ranked 1 in solo queue with a 64% win rate on the Galio. It is banned away, but I just wanted to put that one in.
Thanks for the stats there, Jaws.
I like it.
We'll come back to you if we need any stats about things that aren't being played.
Okay,
Do you want to tell me his win rate on Twitch? That would be great.
Not Twitch. I haven't got that one to hand, mate. But
Alright, so yeah, Cannon being picked up here by Origin. They're going to go up towards the top lane, we expect. PSG now looking at their next 2 picks. Going to be the Jarvan here, going up towards the top lane again for White Knight.
This generally tends to be the pick into a Kennen because it can easily lock him down with that EQ combo. Interestingly, you also see one of the age-old combos being also having a resurgence here on 7-Eleven, Orianna Jarvan. I think a lot of us can remember 3 or 4 years ago, that was like one of the pure ways to engage.
as well.
Yeah, Malphite. Pure ways to engage with the Orianna ball that we always talk about when we see an Orianna ball delivery systems. Jarvan was like the OG ball delivery system, and we can see picks have actually shaped up very quickly. This has been a very, very rapid champion select here, and both compositions have been lined up.
I mean, you look at PSG and Origin right now, and you look at the kind of experience level between these 2 teams, and I want to look at Blanc. He was over in Korea on the Jin Air Green Wings, very, very heavy on the control mages, exactly what he's got in his wheelhouse right now with this Orianna. Coming up against SRH's or Scarlet Syndra, it's going to be a very, very tough matchup for them. In all honesty, he might struggle a little bit, but with Zany's supportive jungling, I really do think he can make it through the laning phase quite well, and if he can just get on top of those carries, you know what Syndra can do if she's fed.
So what are you thinking PSG does here? Very team fight orientated. You've got the Orianna, Jarvan, Rengar, a lot of ways to deliver the ball into the back line. We know how safe Xayah is as an AD carry in her own right, so she can protect herself almost using that ultimate. Do you think that's kind of where we're aiming for the PSG composition here?
I think you seem so, right? And one thing I wanted to point out last game as well, 3 Gargoyle Stone Plates. We've got a Rengar wanting to jump into the back line. Do you know what's really good of an item? Gargoyle Stone Plate, if he does want to jump in. Same with the J4 and the ball delivery system, like you said. If they can just get on top of that Caitlyn, yes, the Rakan's going to be there to kind of reinitiate with the charm, but are you going to be able to do anything too much? Because, again, he's not the tankiest of supports either in his build path.
So this is, for me, PSG are running a very team fight, neutral objective, control-based composition here. You know, they are going to want to be fighting with the Orianna ball. They do not really function in a split push strategy. Orianna not designed to split push effectively, more like the wave clear and siege. So they've got good siege potential because of the threat of that engage from the Rengar and the J4, and they want to kind of try and fight and contest around global objectives. Skirmishes go well in their favor because of the way they've set this composition up. But looking at the other side of the board, Jaws, what we're looking at there?
I mean, realistically, you're looking at a pick competition at the end of the day, with Zany there for the support on the Ivern, and you want to make sure that Cannon can just stay ahead at least. Like you said, a very, very good way to lock him down is that Catechism from the J4, and just making sure that Syndra is fairly safe as well, and Zany is going to be able to perform and do wonders on the Ivern like we've seen him in CSQ. You go towards the bottom lane, however, you've got this Caitlyn Rakan. Rakan, not the strongest in lane, but when it comes to team fights and setting up control of the jungle, he's very, very good, very mobile, can dash over walls obviously with his battle dance, and it can be a very, very annoying champion to kind of lock down. You can leave Caitlyn off in one of these side lanes to, you know, get pressured back, not too much of a problem, because she can just lay a trap line down, and then Rakan can look for these roams of Zany.
Absolutely. I also think another interesting point to pick up on the composition there is that you are going to have a split push threat. You know that Syndra can function in the side lane, even if she doesn't have teleport throughout the majority of the game. You know Kennen is going to be split pushing, as is his prerogative in most situations. And then obviously when it comes to straight up siege potential, you know, you've got Caitlyn trap set up for siege, Syndra fantastic in siege situations as well. And then you always have that threat of potentially tower diving the slicing maelstrom if you get good positional advantage. So there is 2 ways that it can be played out here.
I think we need to step back from compositions as well and just talk about how the teams look as teams. Like PSG came in with Yellow Star as their coach and said, look, we want to make LCS this year. Didn't really pan out for them that well in the first half of the last split, although the second half was a lot stronger. Origin, on the other hand, like, this is a fall from grace for them as a team. They went to Worlds 2 years ago. They were looking like one of the best teams in Europe, and then just time after time they've disappointed the fans. They've disappointed anyone watching their games, really. They disappointed the name of the European LCS. They're the worst team ever in the European LCS.
Check out this brutal guy. Check out this brutal guy.
Like, as much as you can say it's brutal, that's the fact.
Yeah, I mean,
like, if a team goes 0-13, I don't think it's unfair to say they're the worst team in the history of the LCS.
I'm not going to disagree with you, because I just think that you've torn their hearts out, handed to them on a plate.
This is a new roster, though. Yeah. Like, it's an entirely new roster.
I think that what's important to note is Origin started here in the Challenger Series. If they want to rekindle their team, if they want to find a way back into the glory lights, those sort of the big ticket situations, this is where they started, this is where they can rekindle. This will be a situation for them to rebuild back to where they started, and kind of almost the pressure is off in a way. I think everyone would look at this Origin roster and say, okay, you know, we have expectations of Wind and Rain, but how high are our expectations here? When you saw the Origin roster in the Challenger Series previously with PSG and the likes of that team, you said that team is going to dominate the Challenger Series. And they did. You know, they got through to the LCS very easily. The pressure is now off Origin. They've had such a bad slew of games and results. They now have, realistically, people expect them to fail. So if they can do anything but fail, suddenly it's an advantage for them.
It's like my solo queue game.
Yeah. Hopefully do everything but fail. It's not been going well for us.
No,
not at all. Let's not talk about that, though. I mean, Origin at the moment, obviously, like you said, not with their full roster. Like we mentioned before, probably will be able to perform as subs. You kind of expect that if they're going to bring in some other players. You know, they've clearly played a lot together before, but kind of straying away from that one. They've come off a massive win at CSQ. They only dropped 1 game, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say if it was a bit of a meme game, but it wasn't. It wouldn't affect them at all. It was a meme game.
They played Sona support, and like Thresh AD carry or something like that.
They didn't play Thresh AD carry. I remember the Sona support.
They played something else.
But it didn't have any effect on their standings, which was what I'm trying to kind of get at. That's why they kind of lost it. You know, they played a bit funny, and that's absolutely huge for them, considering they took the first win off Red Bulls, and the only loss Red Bulls had on the side in CSQ alone. So that's going to be a pretty big achievement. And coming into this right now, I mean, are they going to be kind of scared of PSG and the and the like historical background of these players and the kind of experience of these players as well? Because honestly, I don't think they are. I think they come in fresh blood, fresh faces, and they're just going to really hit it.
I think it is important to note, though, this isn't the full Wind and Rain roster.
Yeah.
So it is Origin using their LVP bot lane, guys who probably wouldn't have been expected to be thrusted to this level of competition this quickly.
I think it's interesting to say that because I totally agree with you, but then Wind and Rain's roster played in the second league of LVP, and they're the ones getting thrust into this level of competition. So, although I agree having subs is obviously a detriment to a team, G2 had subs, they won their series. You've got to be able to win with subs as a good team.
It's exactly what we picked up at the start of the broadcast. Yes, subs are going to influence your performance. It is not the roster that you would have wanted going into this week. But what is important to note is that a good team will have the capacity to function with a substitute roster, function with a couple of members coming through. And if you're going to substitute one lane, probably substituting out a pair in the bot lane is retain as much synergy as you can without having to mess up everything else across the map.
Yeah, especially with a higher priority on a lot of these top laners now, a lot on obviously the jungler as well. There's a lot on your shoulders in that regard. So again, almost picking a more safe bot lane in the Caitlyn and even Rakan. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure there in terms of like team fight potential and getting obviously nice battle dances off. But realistically, you're gonna have a nice, easy time with this Caitlyn. And like I mentioned before, it's gonna give them a lot of room actually to kind of invade and just make sure they can get a lot of vision down for this Syndra, to make sure she's safe during the first 15 minutes.
It's interesting that you mentioned this because this is always a phenomenon that I've been really interested in. It's the theory that if you think you're going up against better opposition, you won't look to make plays because you're afraid that they'll go wrong. A lot of teams do it against Korean teams. They're afraid to play their normal style of game because they are worried they'll get punished for it against a Korean team. I don't want to see this LVP bot lane be so passive that they lose their first turret at 8 minutes because they are scared to make proactive lane trades and scared to make proactive plays.
Well, they are playing into a switched out bot lane for PSG as well. Of course, Nardius and Noxiat coming in. We are going to get straight on into the game and onto the Summoners Rift for our second series of the day here in the European Summer Split. It is myself and Jaws who will be bringing you the action. And it's going to be a good one, Jaws. I can sense it already. My casting senses are tingling.
They're off the charts, are they? Well, do you know
not
what is
quite
off the charts? No, we're not getting there just yet.
Yeah, like 8,000.
So
not quite
8,
over 9,000, yeah.
Still pretty high though, not going to lie.
It's quite a big scale.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it's quite a big scale. How much does
it goes to like hundreds of thousands.
Oh, okay,
It goes all the way up there, yeah.
Ooh. Our scouter might be a little bit broken after we finish with these games, though.
That's the hope. Zani,
making brushes.
Bushman. Oh yeah.
It's like it's a DJ.
Green
that will be one cool skin I'd like to see, actually.
DJ
Ivan, yeah.
What would Trigger Seed be? Like the shield?
Be like one massive circular.
Disco
Ball. Disco Ball, yeah, that's the one, yeah.
I was thinking of that, or you know those light bands you can get?
Oh, yeah.
The glow sticks?
Okay.
Just like lots of glow sticks.
Just lots of glow sticks.
That'd be pretty cool. Let's have a talk about these compositions, though. We said a little bit about how PSG are looking for team fights, looking to pick people off with the combos, with the Jarvan, with the Rengar. OG Origin, on the other hand, seem to be more siege-orientated. You know, you've got the Caitlyn there, you've always got the pick potential from a Syndra and an Ivan, but the ability just to lay down a siege in a lane and have Kennen split pushing off towards the side seems pretty potent to me.
Yeah, that it does. I mean, realistically, you're going to have White Knight and Dan just consistently split pushing with these teleports. The only kind of problem I have is, where does Zani really kind of prioritize in these lanes? Because yes, he can just kind of disrupt White Knight, and he's going to want to be able to help out SRH, Scarlet, in the mid lane against Blanc, because like we mentioned before, Blanc prolific on these control mages in the mid lane. Azir is a big character for him. You know, Orianna is going to be the same. Nice double knock up to start off with, though, in the lane in the bottom side. I mean, where does Zani kind of prioritize his control? Because we've seen people like Peanut over in Korea do this crazy Ivan when you can get level 4 after 3 minutes by taking all your camps, then going back, then smiting the... It's absolutely insane amount of pressure to create in the early game, and a lot of room it creates for your mid laner as well. But in fact here, he's just actually going for this small invade.
Has been spotted out on the ward there, so they do know he's around. He sets up the Gromp, steals away the blue with the Smite, has already set up his Rift Scuttlers, and she uses the Blast Cone as well. Kairi will notice this, says, okay, I'll take your blue. A even trade between the two junglers, just splitting the map in half for the time being. Let's talk about this bot lane though. Neon and Illusionist being brought in from the Spanish squad. Actually going to set up to spot out Kairi here. Does have those stacks up. There's a bowler looking for a second Ignite used already. Neon going for it. Double buffs on Kyrie, but Noxiac comes in time with the shield to block.
It was really good that Rengar didn't obviously flash there. Hang on a minute, SRH might be in a little bit of trouble. Blanc doing a fair bit of harass in the early stages. Can trade potions very effectively here. Doesn't look like he's got Assassin Mastery as well, so hasn't actually got those biscuits. So that extra 2% damage is really going to start to stick on Scarlet, especially in these early trades. Orianna very, very good at zoning people like a Syndra away, but the issue is when they kind of get to these level 6 marks and when PSG themselves get to level 6, this is kind of one of when they want to open up the map, right? Rengar, normally one of those junglers that you want to farm, just make sure you can get as much farm as possible, just out CS the opponent's, your opposition in the jungler and just get that level 6 in order to kind of gank lanes. Right now, Zany's kind of doing the same thing, and like I said, 16% kill share across CSQ. So tiny and such a supportive role he leads to, but I think it works perfectly for this side of OG.
It definitely does, especially when you've got your usual bot lane there with Darkseid and Quickseth, very known for aggressive bot lanes. Double knock up here from Illusionist, the stun onto Neon, though they're going to use the Ignite as well, looking for the chase. Couldn't quite get the Blade Caller out from Nardius, meaning they couldn't lock Neon down, but that is an Ignite used from Noxiac. Illusionist had already used his, of course, onto Kyrie. And coming back to that bot lane, OG Espana currently sitting in last place of the LVP, not in the best of shapes, facing up against Nardius and Noxiac. Nardius, of course, played around the Challenger scene for quite a while, played for Nerve and for Mouse last year, and Noxiac was in the LCS with Roccat and Fnatic for a time.
Yeah, very experienced bot laner. Very experienced support, I should say. And coming up against, like you said, this less tested Origin support lineup in Neon. I mean, he's going to be in a little bit of an issue, I think, in all honesty, as soon as Kiro hits level 6, because Noxiac already seen him go very aggressive. I think the Ignite was a little bit overzealous. You could have maybe traded in once and then traded in again, wait for Caitlyn to kind of burn her potion in order to actually force her to back, rather than going all in on that first trade and then having her heal up. And obviously, Illusionist as well, with a built-in heal and sustaining his kit, and the Battle Dance to sustain a little bit of that damage as well. I mean, you're going to want to look for these consistent trades rather than just one all-in one.
I'm really interested to see how Illusionist plays around his starting item as well, because it's very difficult on Rakan to actually proc that and get yourself the extra points unless you're playing into a melee support. He needs to be getting as many auto attacks down onto Noxiac as possible, and as many of those Gleaming Quills, the Q as well, which is the heal, to try and get that stacked up quickly, because otherwise we'll be looking at like 15, 18 minutes in the game, and he hasn't actually completed his quest, which doesn't sound like the most consequential thing, but when you're playing Rakan and you want to be getting that movement speed buff, it's actually really important to be able to get that little bit extra movement speed into a fight.
Yeah, it can be quite detrimental, and that's it's going to be one of those things where, like you mentioned, it's not going to be, you know, it's going to be kind of meh if he doesn't get it, but it's really actually going to help him. A nice little double knock-up was there. Illusionist's actually getting a stun.
Yeah, it's going to get stunned up. Blade Caller came out as well. Actually didn't quite hit Nardius and Noxiac with the knock-up, so kind of split the difference between them, which meant they could trade back onto him with the concussive blows. Been a lot of back and forth in this bottom lane. Neon's doing a good job of just standing back and saying, okay, I'll just also attack from long range. Gone Doran's Blade as well, whereas Nardius went for the shield for himself. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we see White Knight's already backed and teleported back into the lane, has himself a Tiamat. Expect Dan to go back soon and start getting that first set of items.
Yeah, White Knight's actually going to just outpush Dan right now. Nice little stun on Blanc. Isn't going to phase him too much as he just walks away without too much of an issue. Now, White Knight can set up priority vision here. You can see, obviously, a ward in the brush, and he can just make sure that Scuttle Crowd is available to them as well. So they kind of know, or can at least telegraph where Zany is with both those Scuttlers up now, so you can kind of tell where he is right now. Bottom side of the map, obviously, you see Illusionist clearing out that pink ward, and with Noxiac rotating as well, is going to spot them both out rather easily. And now, Kirei, what can he do with this information? He's on this bottom side right now, but the problem is, you're going to be wanting to try and force something in the mid lane or top side just because Zany's down here. Like I said, as soon as those level 6 starting to roll in, they're going to want to make a play. I mean, look at the CS differential on Kiro right now. 48 to 26. Absolutely massive. Did steal away the Krugs as well from Zany. Not a camp Ivan usually prioritizes, or many junglers do, but it's going to be very easy for Kiro to do that, especially when he has top lane priority.
Especially on Ivan, you only get 2 CS from it, and it's just a bit like, well, cool.
It's a little bit of gold.
Got myself like 86 gold or whatever. It's not a massive boon
that
for you.
That is a control ward, my friend.
That is one control ward. He's got 2. So.
Oh, all right then. Doesn't need
any more. Scarlet's actually going to get some pressure onto Blanc. Does have the unleashed power. Blanc does have.
Oh, hang on a minute.
The barrier for himself. Here comes Kirei with the ultimate. Scarlet tries to jump in, but he went too aggressive, and Blanc shuts him down. First blood to PSG.
Blunk's positioning there, you could kind of tell he was trying to baiting that one in, and like I said, as soon as there's level 6 hits, and speaking of level 6.
Slicing Maelstrom onto White Knight, he's going to try and dodge back towards the tower for the time being. Another stun from Dan because Kaire's on his way up. White Knight will jump away. Dan realizes he can't go any further.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, the positioning of everybody from PSG, rather over-aggressive, you'd say, but then as soon as Kaire's on the side, he's like, hey, I got a ring bar to back me up. It's not too much of an issue. You can kind of see Blanc baiting Scarlet out and did manage to bait out the kill. And that first blood going over to the Orianna is not going to be all too pretty for Scarlet at this moment in time. It's going to result in massive item differentials, but picking up those Mercury treads early is going to just sustain a little bit more magic resistance, obviously, and tenacity just to get away from those Scatter the Weeks. It's going to be very, very handy for him coming into someone like an Ivan as well.
And Scarlet's fallen behind on CS because of that as well. 12 behind in that mid lane. Top lane is in favor of Origin. They've kept it relatively even, but this is what we tended to see from PSG, is their early games relatively strong last split, and then when they got towards mid game, towards the later game decision making, that's when they started to struggle. So that's really what I want to see from them improve this split, is their knowledge and ability to play around the map, especially around Baron, where we saw them throw against Schalke last split.
I mean, one massive objective that has been changed, obviously, that Harold. So, I mean, PSG...
Harriet, I believe is what we're calling it. Harriet.
Harriet is the name now. I'm not going to roll my R's, I can't do it. I can barely speak at the best of times. But Harriet, I mean, being on that field in a matter of seconds, about 30 to be precise, is going to be another pointed contestation. But with the priority now in the mid lane, you can see Blanc just forcing back Scarlet. And one thing we noticed about Scarlet in CSQ is the fact he loves playing scaling mid laners. Vlad, Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
I mean, just massive scaling champions in the mid lane that you can just really hit that 45-minute mark and just almost two-hit people, or just, you know, the sustained damage from a Cassiopeia. I mean, OG maybe looking for something in the bot side, though. Noxx
chasing in, they get the charm, the quickness down onto Nardius. He's going to put the Feather Storm out, looking for Neon. Ignite has been used, flash away from Nardius. Meanwhile, up towards the top side, Scarlet has died as Kaire takes him out. He does get the counter kill. Nardius caught up with the root caller, and it's a very dead Xayah, but here comes Blanc. He wants to kill onto Neon, the stun. Illusionist jumps back, there's the heal as well. Neon's still alive. Blanc has been TP'd in, there's the shockwave double, looking for it, manages to get one. Here is Dan though, he's going to clean up this fight. Blanc chased off towards the backside, can't get onto Noxiac. Eventually Blanc will fall to Dan here, just slices through him. And OG pick up 3.
OG pick up 3, that's going to be a nice little gold in their back pocket, at least on to Scarlet and Dan picking up a kill for themselves each. But now White Knight is just forcing this top tower down. That's going to be really big for them, because now they can go to this lane swap. They can, PSG can put their bottom lane up into that top side, force a lot of pressure down onto that Rift Herald. I mean, Scarlet coming up with that kill was fantastic and all, but the thing is right now, Blanc, he survived for so long in that fight, did miss the command attack and dissonance to actually finish off Neon quicker than he should have done, but nonetheless, you know, patience, saved his shockwave, picked up a nice two-piece, or at least Noxiac obviously taken one of those away. I mean, the question is now for PSG, what are they going to do with this top turret now? And I want to see them lane swap.
Getting that first tower is all because of the delay in that fight down towards the bottom side as well, which is great for them. They can swap if they want to. White Knight is going to stay up towards the top side for the time being. Has got the teleport, of course, to rejoin the fight if he needs to. I think they're happy enough putting White Knight into Dan for, at the moment. He is falling behind in CS, as you'd expect into the range, into melee matchup. But for the moment, they're not too worried about that Jarvan falling behind.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, he's going to be the catalyst for that Cataclysm, is going to be the catalyst in these fights realistically. I mean, like we mentioned, ball delivery system from Blanc is going to be fairly easy for him to jump in a team fight and then instantly delete someone with the help of Nardius as well. Went for the knock-up, didn't quite land it. Illusionist finding those. Hang on a minute though. Sandy might be in a little bit of trouble.
Kaire's only level 8. Here comes Daisy as well. It's now a 2v1 as Kaire realizes he's outnumbered. Blanc comes across, Scarlet forced away. Blanc looking very aggressively for the shockwave, and here's Kaire as well. The thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the kill for Paris Saint-Germain as they get another one in the jungle of OG. Dan's on his way down though. Here comes the knock-up, Illusionist with a triple, and Blanc now going to try and chase Dan off, but the slicing master is back up. It's a 3v4 for the time being as Blanc eventually falls. White Knight joined the fray, jumps onto Neon. At no time did it look like Nardius wanted any part of that, so OG gets 3 once again. and only lose their mid laner.
Oh, and Dan didn't even have teleport. He just walked it. He was like, you know what, I got my own 2 feet. I can just walk this, no worries, and just get the beautiful flank off. But White Knight in a little bit of trouble. Does use the flag and drag over the wall to get away. Didn't secure the red buff. In fact, went over to Illusionist. That was an absolutely fantastic collapse there from PSG to start off with. Blanc obviously just going hella aggressive, knowing he can do that with Kire to back him up. The problem is, you had White Knight off to the side, didn't really manage to get too much stuff done, and then you had, hey, Neon's in the bottom lane, and Illusionist jumps over the wall, surprise double knock-up, see you later, because Daisy's there too.
I had a big question as well coming into this week as to Wind and Rain in Challenger Series qualification looked very strong. They went 5-1 in groups and went, I think they only lost 1 game in their playoffs as well, went 3-1 versus Tricked, and that was a strong Trick lineup. You know, people like Godbro there, experienced players. And I was wondering, did Wind and Rain play so well just because they were underestimated by their opponents? Were they so good because teams just didn't give them the respect they deserved, didn't give Dan the respect he deserved? Now they've moved over to the Origin lineup and they're holding even with Paris Saint-Germain, a very strong Paris Saint-Germain team who've had time to develop, had time to play together, have brought in Nardius and Noxiac to try and provide some more experience in that bot lane. And OG looks strong. OG look like a challenger team that can push towards those playoff spots later on. I think this is unexpected for a lot of people. I think a lot of people were saying the Wind and Rain roster now on Origin would be 5th or 6th in the group.
I mean, I like you bringing up that narrative point because Dan specifically, like you said, maybe underestimated by a lot of teams at that massive split pusher role on the Jax, for example, on the Fiora. He had the biggest gold share on his team in CSQ. For good reason. I mean, he was just sat in the top lane 99% of the time. In one of their games, especially early on in the CSQ, negative KDA almost, you know, just sat in the top lane on that Jax, but he got work done while the rest of his team played a 4-1. It was absolutely fantastic, and I think you're right. I think a lot of teams did come into it go, okay, so I recognize a couple of these names, you know, they've been around the scene a little while, but, you know, coming together against our studded, like, stacked roster, then we don't need to play all too seriously, and we saw Red Bulls in their first and only loss against Wind and Rain in CSQ do a little bit of a disrespectful draft, and that's exactly what Wind and Rain did to overcome it. Wow, hang on a second.
Blanc with so much damage onto Scarlet, trying to force him back away from the tower as they look for their second of the game. 15 minutes in, there's only 200 gold separating these two teams, and Dan has a Blade of the Ruin King and those Ninja Tabis already completed on this split push cannon. No AP for him.
No AP. I was very happy to see an AP cannon at last, but we're not going to see that again.
Do you not watch LCK? Marvin is just like, only AP cannon. That's all I can play, guys.
To be fair.
Oh, you want a split pusher? AP cannon. Let's go, guys.
Just full aggressive, no defensive items, always. Yeah. I do love watching Myron play, to be fair. His Renekton play is pretty magical as well. Now Origin's starting up this Rift Herald, and you can see, like I mentioned before, PSG had a perfect opportunity to rotate their bottom lane to the top side, put White Knight down to the bottom lane with the TP, and then just force Origin to kind of react to this Rift Herald. Daisy and Zani just doing absolute wonders to it.
Superb kiting potential. Actually, it took Zani a long time to take that first eye to knock down the Rift Herald, but now that Dan's come across to join him, should be pretty easy for them to do. Zani eventually will take some damage. Oh, Trigger Seed. Oh, wait, no, you won't. Excellent. Now, Xayah, Nardius. We've seen Xayah banned out in a lot of games. He's gone for the Essence Reaver here, scaling up that crit build that we see so commonly on the Feather Mistress down towards the bottom lane. Currently in a fight with her boyfriend, the Rakan. I don't actually know if they're married. I don't think they are. I think they're just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Boyfriend and girlfriend, yeah. Definitely not married in this game, as they are wanting
to they could be.
Kill each other.
Sometimes sometimes you get in a fight with your husband or your wife and just okay, sleep in separate beds for a while, it's fine.
I wouldn't know, mate, I'm sorry. Feels bad. Feels single, man, but...
No girls caught your eye yet, Jaws?
Unfortunately not, mate. Apart from the play from Blanc already.
Yeah.
I was about to say. Do like that skin. I like Orianna as a player, or a champion, I should say, and I like Blanc as a player.
I like this play from PSG as well.
So do I.
They force down the mid lane tower.
Hang on a minute. Ooh, Shockwave onto Zani.
Shockwave used. They will get the turret. And that's 3-0 in favor of PSG. Now, OG, they're keeping up with PSG in terms of fights, but they are not keeping up in terms of macro play. They are 3 towers to none down. They have pulled up that Rift Herald up towards the top side, but Dan was probably going to get that tower anyway into White Knight. He's in a strong position there, looking towards mid as well. Only Noxiac here to defend for the time being until Nardius joins up the fray. And we'll just force him back.
Best thing about that Essence Reaver as well, does obviously refund mana. when he does crit, so we'll be able to clear the waves out, and sustainability is going to be the kind of factor against the split, against the siege potential of Origin at this current moment in time. Riftherald, obviously, like you mentioned, was using that top lane. Dan did secure that tier 1 turret, and now White Knight has to respond to that one. Does have teleport available to him, and let's talk about the vision control really quickly from PSG. You can see a lot of vision control actually around this dragon here. Nice couple of flank teleport wards. Keyray coming from the side though, has popped the ult.
Noxiac there, Glacial Fish is going to be used. They're looking for the engage onto Zani. Daisy's available still. Going to go lower. Thrill of the Hunt. The Trigger Seed keeps it alive. Thrill of the Hunt unable to engage. They do keep the tower up for the time being. Dan, he loves to be alone. He doesn't need a husband, doesn't need a wife, doesn't settle into these Rakan-Zaya games. It's like, no guys, you keep your Fae Feathers all to yourselves. All I want is a lonely lane up towards the top side.
That's exactly what he's done.
The bachelor life.
The bachelor life for Dan.
Who would Kennen even go out with? Tristana?
I was about to say.
I'm pretty sure there's a
Tiny
relationship
Yordles.
that Tristana's already in that I can't remember the lore of, but I believe she's in a relationship with someone. It might be with Rumble.
With Rumble, that would make a lot of sense. Both Yordles, so is Kennen. I mean, it secured a nice 40 CS lead for himself as well. Working towards...
It's because he doesn't have to spend anything on his girls.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah.
Got all the money to himself.
Saving up all that CS.
Oh boy. More items for me.
Oh baby. Let's have a look down those items though, Jaws. We've got Morello Nomicon finished on both the mid laners. Look like it's a Ludens for Blanc, second up. Not quite sure where Scarlet's going to go. Has a Ruby Crystal just sitting in his inventory. Could go any way of a plethora. PSG are going to look to secure the Cloud Drake for themselves. Kyrie's here. Easy enough dragon to take, and that's a bit of extra movement speed for Nardius and Kyrie as they sometimes look to engage these fights.
And one thing PSG did change, and obviously we mentioned it before in Champions Select, losing Pilot to a Chinese challenger team. He's over in the LSPL now. Not something that you'd usually see, just a single Korean in that bottom lane. You'd normally think, you know, you have two more native speakers in order to coordinate the lane a little bit better. Just having Blanc now in this mid lane has proven quite a lot already on this Orianna. Fantastic control mage player. They did fail to obviously qualify in spring. I mean, losing out to Fnatic Academy, but it went to 5 games. They have got the roster and they've got the caliber as well to make it to those playoff spots, like you said. But right at this merry moment in time, I mean, you look at Origin and you're thinking to themselves, yes, they've got 2 substitute players, but they are playing the map very, very well in reaction to PSG. They did secure the turret in the top side. They are still 2 turrets down, but now they've got to look for this vision control, right? Just make sure Dan is protected in these split pushing roles, because that's exactly where he's going to be. But do PSG then kind of play to that? They know that Dan's going to be in this split pushing. It's kind of it could be a Achilles heel of Origin coming into these next few weeks.
Definitely a place you can isolate, and when you've got someone like White Knight who has the Black Cleaver, and you've got Kyrie there who can always jump in, building towards a Black Cleaver of his own, it's very easy for them to quickly get on top of Dan, shut him down, and then go play the rest of the map. Looks like they're grouping up towards mid at the moment. The problem for PSG is there's no towers that are obvious to them. It's all second tier, so you have to step up your vision line before you can step up as a team, and that's what they're trying to do with Kyrie and Noxiac stepping up towards this red side jungle.
That's exactly what they need to do right now. Get vision around that Baron and get vision around OG's red side. And you can see already that nice
like a crescent moon
C shape. Or crescent moon, yeah.
I believe it's called, yeah.
Sure. Backwards
the good old
C-shape.
backwards C shape. Big fan.
Big fan of that. Big fan of that vision line. OG, a big fan of those turrets. Just cannot quite knock that mid one down. It's so low. They just need to push it. They need to be able to just move those trap lines up. Forget about the vision. Just move Neon's trap line up and force it. You've got Zani, full defensive, not defensive, supportive build on this Ivan. You can take a bit of damage, you can take a bit of hurt, right? You've got the heal as well from Illusionist. Just force it through. They're trying to force something now with Daisy. Trigger C is going to land on Noxiac. I can't imagine that's going to be anything too much.
Root into knock up. Unbreakable comes down as well.
This is what they need to do. They need to force down this turret, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, look at Dan in his bottom side. He's forcing White Knight. White Knight can't teleport. They need to be able to react to this, but White Knight can't do that. He can't teleport behind OG at this current time because he just loses a turret. Dan pushes yet another wave, but now you see Blanc up in the top side now just pushing alone without teleport. No worries for him, apparently. Dan, you'll eventually take that turret, mate. There you go. Finally falls down.
It's that painful experience when all the minions die, and it's like, I can definitely get this. I can definitely get this.
The last auto, you're doing like 15 damage.
However, However, because Blank was pushing top, so what happened? Blank was pushing top. OG said, okay, we can force mid and force bot. Blank was like, okay, I'm not going to react. I'll just keep pushing top. They get a tier 2 up towards that top side, which I will take in a trade 9 times out of 10. Losing a couple of tier 1s that you're probably going to lose anyway to get that tier 2 and just help yourself push further into that jungle is so strong here for Paris Saint-Germain. Now we are 23 minutes in, gold pretty much even between these two teams, only about 600 the difference between them. Something we didn't talk too much about in picks and bans was scaling. We talked about 1-3-1, pick comps, siege comps. Who actually scaled better out of these two compositions?
That's kind of interesting you say that, because you normally think of a Caitlyn as, okay, she's got 3 items. 2 attack speed, Infinity Edge, plus boots maybe somewhere in there as well. And you think, okay, so she's going to basically rip through every single target on the face of the planet. The problem is, you look at the side of PSG, you've got Blanc, he's 3, 2, and 2. He has Luden's Echo, a more of a luxury item in my opinion. You know, you get a bit of movement speed.
That's what I think every time I look at Luden's Echo. It's like, oh guys,
bit of a luxury.
Where should we go? At the airport shop? Oh, let's go to the Luden's Echo.
No, it's just the Ludens.
Yes,
they sell Echoes and they sell various other things.
Let's go to Ludens. Oh, it's next to Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Ludens. Ouais, bien sûr.
I don't speak French, mate, unfortunately.
Yeah, nor do I.
No, well, that was quite apparent, don't worry. You know, he's got the Marilla Nomicon as well, and if he does manage to get on top of someone, which is very apparent if you look at the PSG lineup, Cataclysm, obviously Kirei just jumping in with the thrill of the hunt, it's going to be very easy for him to kind of delete someone. You've got a lot of protection from OG. The scaling, I think, is there for both sides. It's really who catches the first one out first. And I think OG, at this current moment in time, and maybe looking forward into this game, need to play a bit more reactively with Dan, use his ability to split push, use his ability to engage.
Oh, here comes Kirei looking for his engage. Look at the stun onto Zani. Knocks up. Here's Blanc though with a total flank. That's a dead Ivan. They're going to chase onto Illusionist and Neon. Neon flashes away. Illusionist stunned up as he tried to jump. The shockwave brings him back. Neon's so low. Can't get to the blast cone in time. It's a double for Kirei as PSG clean up in the mid lane.
Oh man, that was so sad. Illusionist, you could see him running to that brush. Just couldn't quite make it. And Neon as well, just kind of not hitting that blast cone in time. And that's exactly what PSG needed to do. I said OG, they need to play reactively, but PSG need to do the opposite. They need to play actively. Proactively. Thank you, my man. Oh, it's a long train journey. It's pretty hot in here as well. You know, just losing my senses at the moment. Now they need to start this Baron. It's going to be very, very easy for them. Zani's going to be up, what, in 5 seconds?
Dan's coming, though, straight onto Blank barrier. Yuti's going to slice his way away with the Lightning Surge. Here's White Knight. Can try and Cataclysm onto that backline. 4,000 HP on the Baron. Scarlet knocks him back. Baron going lower. The Featherstorm comes out.
Can they steal
Caller. Scarlet tries to steal. Noxiac. Oh, it was so close. It was taken by Nardius. Holy moly, Kirei, what are you doing with your smite there?
That was on like 30 HP! And Scarlet comes in there, I saw his arm come out for the auto attack. Is that going to steal it? No, it's taken away. Nardius did manage to secure it, thank God. As PSG, I think, wipe a lot of sweat off their brow. But, I mean, Origin, you kind of got to be happy with that. I mean, at the end of the day, you did manage to pick up Noxiac. Yes, Scarlet went down, but that was so close to it going over to you. Blanc might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Illusionist with the quickness, knock up, Brute Caller out as well, and Dan's just going to use those mountains off towards the side. Shockwave is huge. Blank is going to go down. Blank. Dan makes him go blank. That's a blank space where Blanc used to be. OG eventually get the kill. Kirei with the thrill of the hunt, looking to see perhaps if he could catch out Dan, but he's run a long way away. And this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier on. PSG, they were always a good early team. They've always been a good early team. Even against Schalke, they went like 8-0 up. And then they threw at Baron and lost the game. And here they almost threw at Baron. They're just not... Their later game shot calling and decision making is nowhere near as strong as their early game mechanical play. And I think bringing Nardius and Noxiac in bot lane is going to help that. Noxiac, of course, with their wealth of experience, and Nardius, without the language barrier that Pilot had, is going to help them out later. But I still worry for them as a team that they haven't really shown me yet that their macro is a lot better than it was last split.
I mean, macro comes down to...
it's only 26 games in game 1. 26 minutes in game 1.
26 games into game 1.
Yes.
Macro, I mean, vision is kind of a big point in that, and you kind of look at the items coming through for PSG, not necessarily the actual items, but the vision. Every single time I look at it, there's at least 2 control wards on Blanc. There's at least 3 other control wards. They're ready to move this vision line up, and I think that's one thing they needed to kind of tighten up there. You said their macro game was one thing that, you know, kind of failed them a little bit, realistically, last split, but now just coming through with the vision and just being able to push that one up. We saw obviously the crescent shape of wards earlier around that around the red side of Origin's jungle. Just being able to force those engagements as well. It's just been it's been working in a lot of their favor. And yes, the Baron was a little bit higgledy-piggledy, but realistically right now, PSG, they've got the advantage. They've got the siege as well. Neon's not going to be able to do all too much. And think about the wave clear. Who's got wave clear on Origin right now? You've got Neon standing farther back, hasn't got Runans though, he's only got Static Shiv. It's going to help him. Scarlet can't step up because guess what? You'll have a Noxiac on your face. Blunks will, you know, I can imagine, you know, flash forward, Shockwave. He's hit most of them already, if not one, at least 2 people. I mean, the problem right now, Dan's doing a fantastic job of split pushing, but his turrets are falling lane after lane after lane as these Baron minions are just pushing in.
And this is the weakness that War had, and you said, is it something that will be caught out when they start to play for Origin? Is Dan, he's one-dimensional in the fact that he split pushes, and that's what Dan does. And yes, he's joined a couple of fights and helped out, but the rest of the time, Dan is in top lane. He's just by himself split pushing. And if PSG can play around that properly, which is what they're doing, they're just taking an objective here or there, they're never really going for a full engage, then even though Dan can split push, White Knight's happy to clear under tower. Like, he's experienced enough, he's been around in League of Legends long enough not to want to go for the big outplay, not to want to try and take out this young whippersnapper upstart like some of the old dogs may do. He's content. Like, it's just like, yeah, guys, I'll just farm under tower. Dan can push it in as much as he wants, but he's not going to get the tower for now, and we'll get 3 towers while he pushes me.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it a little bit last game, and the fact that is Cannon going to do a lot of burst damage to you? No, she's not. Realistically, unless she's going AP. Yes, White Knight can literally stand there. He's got the Ravenous Hydra. He sits there just smacking the wave, Titanic Hydra, I should say, smacking the wave over and over again, ignoring Dan's damage, walking back a little bit, regenerating a lot of that HP. Has obviously got the Ninja Tabis as well. It's looking bad for Origin right now. It is. And one thing they need to do, yes, play reactively, like I said. But the problem is PSG have been so clean in a lot of these fights, and it does seem a lot of the time OG are actually just picking up some of these scraps. You're picking up Noxiac on the edge of the Baron, like Scarlet managed to pick him up. Yeah, that's fantastic. You almost stole the Baron. Very, very good attempt to. But the problem is there's so much engaged potential from PSG that it's going to be very, very hard now for Neon to actually play around that, not being as far ahead as he needs to be on this Caitlyn.
How much can you protect Neon, I think is a big question. Now, can Scarlet just 100-0 someone? You can't do it to Nardius because he'll just jump up into the Featherstorm. Blank's very difficult to do it to as well because he's got the barrier and the command protect. It's Kyrie or Noxiac, and Noxiac has a shield, and Kyrie has some magic resist in the form of a no magic mental. Perhaps Kyrie. Kyrie is probably the one that you're going to be able to burst at the moment, but it's just a struggle for OG. They are now 5,000 gold behind. There is a Baron that PSG are waiting to spawn. And as soon as it does spawn, that's what they're going to go for. They can't push without Baron. Dan can push just however he wants to push.
However he wants to push. Look at the vision control coming here from Origin. You can see I count 1, 2, 3 wards, 4 if you count the one near the base for Origin on the blue side of the jungle. This Baron is up in 1 minute 45. They can't push through because look at the control wards here from PSG. Dan maybe just getting a little bit out of control.
Here comes Nadia, slicing Maelstrom out of the Cataclysm. Featherstorm comes out looking for the root. They will get it down. Here's the redemption though. Dan does not survive. And Paris Saint-Germain collapse on the split push and get themselves another kill.
Well, I said it might be the Achilles heel for them. That's exactly what is proven just there. Even flashed out of the Cataclysm and was met with a Featherstorm, which went a little bit wide, but realistically, you got 2 members there. You do sustain damage with that cannon with the Frozen Mallet build and the Runans. You're not going to be able to 1-2 tap Azaya. It's not going to happen. You can't kill White Knight. It's just not going to happen. This vision control from OG needs to be able to push up now, and Dan just cannot be split pushing at this current moment in time. You need to just be able to control the waves, set up pushing lanes like, and we mentioned him earlier, Marin is so good at over in Korea, setting up pushing lanes so it slowly pushes out, and then when someone answers it, you can then push your vision line up. Dan needs to create space for Neon to actually move in these team fights, where, like you mentioned a minute ago, he doesn't have much protection. Apart from Zanny, all the shields and heals are there, but realistically, you got Keyray jumping on your face, you got White Knight, you got Blanc who's going to shockwave you. It's not looking good for Origin. Push the waves up, make sure Dan doesn't overextend like that again, because that will be a free Baron to PSG, if not.
That's the thing, that PSG was slightly unlucky with the timing of it, because they did catch out Dan, but if it had been 30 seconds later, they could have got the Baron off it as well. Now they're just going to set up vision. once again in towards this this red side jungle. It is a bit of a death bush, but it's also a, you get anywhere near us, like we can just back away and do Baron. Like, this is a vision control bush.
They can do that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They can do that at this current moment in time. Look at the wave set up in that top side. It's going to push now towards Origin. There might be a fight, though.
The root did come out onto Blanc, and I thought they were going to engage onto it. White Knight gets straight on towards the backline. Illusionist down to half. Shockwave used. He jumps away, but Zani is caught up in it. The redemption has been popped off towards the side. Kyrie looking for an engage. OG all grouped up together. And PSG do not get the fight they want. OG might want to turn it around. They do have the Slicing Maelstrom. They do have the Unleashed Power. They do have Dan running forward. Just chasing off Paris Saint-Germain. And now they can get over to the Baron and get themselves some vision control.
Reactive, this is what they need to do. There's 2 massive cooldowns down right now. Blanc, that is on a 48-second cooldown or thereabouts with the current items he's got in his inventory.
That's an Orianna player right there.
Around that level, yeah, it's 60. He's level 16. It's around 48 seconds. They need to be able to play around these cooldowns. Yes, they're very, very short at this current moment in time, but you still need to be able to react. Origin doing that right now. You need to set up this vision. Zanny smites this away, or not smites it because he needs it for the Baron, but he takes that one away. Perfect. They're going to start this Baron up now. And thing is, PSG, they've not got Shockwave, although it's just going to come up in a couple of seconds, so I'm just going to take that one out of there.
It was about 48 seconds ago that he used it, and now they're looking for it. White Knight's teleporting in, but already the Baron's gone. Scarlet gets it. PSG want the fight, though. The Glacial Fisher will get the knock-up. Here they go. PSG get one. The charm in the blackout. Great play by Illusionist to escape. White Knight, the Shockwave misses as well, and now OG can run away. They'll get at least 1 or 2 members away with the Baron. PSG continuing to chase. Neon is left for dead, but Origin get 2 members away. And I'm not sure if PSG can continue this chase. Kaire's looking for it, will jump in. Illusionist once again gets in the way. His Rakan play has been absolutely exemplary.
It really has, but the problem is now 2 members down for Origin. They're not going to have to defend this top inhibitor, but now they've got the Baron buff at least on 3 members, and that's going to be what's kind of key to them revitalizing back, their revitalization back into this game. And it was a really fantastic Baron take. They took it just in time, just before PSG could actually rotate Blanc. Yes, he missed a Shockwave, did manage to obviously follow up with a couple of kills, but again, OG, I think they played that very, very well, kiting back in the beautiful charm straight into the quadruple knock-up from Illusionist. It was, like you said, absolutely exemplary. Inferno Drake is going to get taken, though. PSG is going to get that one on the board. Marks 3 Drakes now, and this is the problem. 35 minutes into the game, Elder Dragon's going to spawn. That is a very, very big Elder Dragon buff.
That is Cloud, Mountain, and Infernal. It's like a tornado on a volcano.
Man, imagine that ripping towards you. You'd be like,
If the volcano's coming towards me, I'd be very worried. Just like the mountain
slowly
moving across the countryside.
Well, tectonic plates do move,
That's true. That is true.
They are coming towards you, just very slowly. Might take a couple of million years. Hopefully the game won't last that long.
It is an Origin game. You never know.
You never know.
They are famed for their length and their infamy. PSG looking to defend this mid lane tier 2 should fall to Origin here, but White Knight's going to jump straight onto Neon. The Shockwave comes out as well. That's a dead Caitlyn. Absolutely assassinated by Paris Saint-Germain. Good knockback by Scarlet to distract PSG. Dan still splitting in the bot lane. Why would you do anything else? He gets it.
Who'd have thought
it? Another tower.
Yeah, nice pick off there by White Knight. Flag drag straight into the Cataclysm and then to the Shockwave, the combination we talked about. And it's going to happen. It's going to pick people off. With the death time is around 38 to 40 seconds now. It's going to be pretty big. Neon didn't have the Baron buff to begin with. It was obviously on Illusionist, Scarlet, and Dan. So, didn't really lose all too much there. They did manage to get obviously one turret. Or no, it didn't actually go down. They got one turret in the bottom lane, but that turret on an inch of HP is going to get taken very shortly. You can imagine if the Origin do push down towards this middle lane, but now PSG, they can siege up. Blanc does have the Shockwave available to him just yet.
White Knight doesn't have TP though, and Dan is in this fight. So if OG want it, they can just go for a full-on 4v4 engage. They're not quite going to do it. Paris Saint-Germain realised perhaps they didn't want the fight that much, didn't want the tower that much for the time being. Still a few minutes away from the next objective spawns. I think this is the problem for PSG, is the wave clear from OG is actually relatively good. Like, Caitlyn can anti-siege, Syndra there, of course, just clears waves very easily by herself, and then Dan is clearing waves for days in whichever lane he decides to be in for the time being. So they need the Baron. If PSG don't get Baron, they really struggle to actually push into the base of Origin.
The prioritization on the vision now from OG did manage to push out PSG's vision up in that top side. But now they need it round the bottom side. They need it round this this Elder Dragon.
And there's still no sweeper on Zani either.
Yeah.
Deciding instead to keep with that warding totem, but they haven't got control wards.
Soldier's jungle at him. You could kind of say that's why. I mean, not having the tracker's knife, the tracker's knife not being there, just results in less wards.
But it also means that you're a lot less likely to be able to sweep wards away, and he's not picking up control wards. Like there's 3 control wards on Illusionist, but only one of those can be down at any one time. Neon has 1, and there's 1 out on the map as well. Look at the other side. There's 5 control wards and 2 sweepers, alongside having a couple down on the map as well, I believe, around this blue pit. So PSG's vision control is just so much stronger than OG's for the time being. Yeah,
like I said before, about 10 minutes ago, there's always going to be wards. There's always control wards in PSG's inventory, at least 5. It's a matter of, I think, coming in to look at this in a bit of an outwards perspective, going, yes, PSG, they are the more experienced team coming into this. OG just getting a little bit out-rotated right now, even though they have Baron buff. Yeah. I mean, 3 members on Baron buff, you could kind of say, right, okay, they're going to be able to stand up to him, no problem. You actually have Dan split pushing, which is obviously what he loves to do. Highest CS in the game right now as well. Just have him down in the bottom lane or in the top side, just pushing with those Baron minions. But the problem right now, PSG have such control, not only of the vision of the map as well. It's just very, very hard for OG to actually just step outside their base this current moment in time. And one itemization choice that I really want to pick up on here as well is going to be the GA coming out from Dan. He needs to fight. If he's got the GA, he needs to just go in, all in, flash, you know, slicing Melchion, try and get on top of Blanc. Nadius, just one of them. Just destroy them. You've got Zani there to kind of back you up in terms of redemption for the heal, and obviously the trigger seed for the shields as well. Create space for Neon, and then push forward from there. The problem is, PSG, they are finding these fights, and they are finding these pickoffs as well. And that's resulting in just large map objectives for them in terms of turrets and dragons. And you can see now, 2 massive objectives coming up. And PSG right now, honestly, I think they could choose either one of them and still go for a meaningful push with it as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. It's something we saw in the last game with RB being in a position where they could take either of them because they got so many dragons. I think as well, you have to come back to Paris Saint-Germain having a bit more time over the break to actually organize themselves as a team and say, this is what we need to be doing at this point of the game, this is how we want to play here. The Origin bot lane for this series is a substitute bot lane coming from their Spanish team, and perhaps they just don't have as much coordination with the rest of the team. Like, they put on a goodish show. Neon's got caught out a couple of times, but it's a composition that is aimed at catching him out, so you can't really blame him too much. Illusionist has looked good on the Rakan, but they just haven't quite been able to stand up to the PSG level.
Yeah, I think Illusionist looked very, very good on this Rakan, especially in laning phase as well. Something you just don't think about with Rakan. Laning phase is not that strong. And with a lot of these dominant supportive picks right now, we're talking Thresh, Zyra, even you know, Lulu, Karma, someone that can like poke you out. He's looked absolutely fantastic coming into Noxiac on the Brawl. Noxiac is quite a Brawl player, a hell of a Brawl player. And coming into him and just kind of walking up to them, you know, there was a couple of double knockups there and just really playing for it. I think he's done an absolutely fantastic job, and now he just needs to find these fights and find the charms like he's been able to do before, because right now, Baron's live. You've got 9 seconds on the Elder Drake as well. OG need to be able to make something. Their vision is not strong. And you can see White Knight, look at his positioning right now. He's just sat in their jungle, near their wolves. He can just flank right now and try and get something off.
Illusionist is looking for the same, though. He's actually positioned up towards the top side of this fight. Kirei gonna jump in. Here's White Knight, gets the jump straight onto Scala, but he's still alive, and now Daisy's gonna come down and make this a 6v5. Illusionist is in the backline, Dan there as well. Already they've killed Blanc. It's 2 kills across towards Origin, and the flank gets off from them absolutely superbly. Dan joins the fight and shows the world what he can do on this cannon.
Oh boy, Dan, he joins the fight, and what happens? They win the fight! He's 4-1-1, they finally take that turret as well. There's 2 objectives on the map they need to take, 45 seconds and 43 seconds. You take the turrets, they're going to be on the map forever. Those Baron and Dragon, you know, you can give them up at the later stages of the game. Not necessarily, but right now you need those inhibitors down in order to make a pushing wave.
I think they might go for the win here, Jules.
I think they might do. 30 seconds on the clock for the respawns on the mid and top laners.
Here comes Kaire jumping in, Thrill of the Hunt used. There's no minions with them though, and that tower is not taking that much damage. Nadius is off towards the side, trying to chuck out those feathers as much as possible. Kaire distracts the minion wave, stops it in its tracks. That's good play by the Rengar to distract it in time so that Origin would not be able to get the buff. Dan with the chase. Here's the ace in the hole as well. Kyrie escaping down towards the bottom side, but the root caller lands, and Dandan's looking for the stun. We'll be able to get it out. That is a dead Rengar.
Origin, fantastic. Or try to go for the game end there, but no, they need to be able to just focus these objectives now. No Smite, obviously, on the side of PSG. They go for this Elder Drake right now and then rotate straight towards Baron. They've got a pushing mid-wave, but it does look like PSG actually deciding, you know what? Elder Drake, no, we don't need it. We're just going to go straight towards Baron. We haven't got a Smite, but no problem.
Late game shot calls from PSG make me cringe so much. They back off. Caitlyn's still doing Elder Drake here. OG will get the Elder Dragon. Only gives them that true damage buff, of course. Doesn't have anything else. They get the Elder Drake. They have no other Drakes in their back pocket, and now they're looking to the Baron as well. Kyrie's still 23 seconds away from spawning. And I think PSG are just going to give this one up.
Yeah, they just rotate to Baron right now. Neon just sits there in a brush, auto-attacking the Elder Drake. Hasn't got a care in the world. Baron's going to go over. That's two massive global objectives on the side of OG right now. 6-1, 6-7 even in terms of turrets. And now PSG, like you said, late game shot calling, sometimes not their strongest point, instantly backed away as soon as they saw Dandan come forward. I mean, he's one scary cannon right now. He's got 4 items.
Oh, he's got a Bloodthirster as well.
Oh, yes. Sold the GA, by the way.
Who needs a GA, man? You popped it already. Exactly. You know, just get a Bloodthirster next. There's a GA on Neon.
Does that count for him, though?
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? You know? Look at these gold totals, almost 20,000 on Dandan in that split push roll, and we wondered if he'd join the fights. Well, now he has begun to fight with his team. They're looking down towards the bottom lane, already got that mid lane inhib down, of course, and Origin. Is this the start of another Origin story for Origin? Zani's going to get caught off. Shockwave into Glacial Fissure, knocks him up. Zani's still alive. Illusionist chasing him away, gets him with the charm. Charms up the entire PSG lineup, and here's the flank from Scarlet. Scatter the Weak was used. White Knight there as well. Dandan jumps in, the Cataclysm comes down. It's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Origin. PSG down to 3 members. Have to defend their Nexus towers as well, because there are super minions there. Origin pushing in with 4 people alongside Daisy and a Baron buff and an Elder Drake buff. They will take their second inhibitor of the game.
448 CS at 44 minutes into the game. Dandan is popping off right now. This is what Caitlyn does best as well. She takes those turrets. A beautiful found fight for Origin. They might just go for the win here.
Illusionist gets the knock-up. Neon with the headshot onto Nadia. That's so much damage. The first tower's fallen. They're looking for the second. Nadia's just about survives, but that's a Nexus tower down, and Origin! It is the beginning of a beautiful story for Origin as they take down PSG.